Welcome to Age Potential TV. I'm Lori Campbell, your host, gerontologist, and advocate of your best life, here to introduce you to an emerging trend called Age Potential. Here's to living out your age potential. Are you suffering from the aging blues, wanting more joy in your life? If so, you'll want to stay tuned. Today on Age Potential TV, Dr. Henry Emmons, an integrative psychiatrist and author of the books Chemistry of Joy and The Chemistry of Calm, will share how to align your mind, body, and heart to live a more joyful and resilient life. Welcome, Henry.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Wonderful. Your expertise really lies in what a lot of people who are aging really confront. Your expertise focuses on restoring mood, regaining that life balance, and rediscovering joy. Let's start with the joy. How would you define joy?
I think a lot of people, when they consider joy, they equate it with happiness, or they equate it with a certain feeling. And I don't really see it that way. I think that joy, as I understand it, is something deeper, something that supports and sustains us, and it's really different than a feeling. So whatever we're feeling at any given moment, we can still tap into that joy, that sense of connectedness, a sense of openness, being connected with something greater than ourselves.
So how would one really nurture, or how would they learn to maintain that joy in the midst of chaos around them? How does one do that?
Yeah, that's the essential question, because for so many of us, life is stressful, even chaotic. I think there's times in almost everyone's life where that is probably the case. And I do think that as we age, we tend to accumulate more stresses, more losses, and it can be challenging to stay connected to joy. I believe that it makes sense to try to attend to the whole person. So not to just focus on one thing or one other area of our lives, but to try to think about the whole being. And so I really try to help people with what I call the 9 pathways to joy that fall into 3 categories. Those are body, mind, and heart. And among the body pathways, we really try to work to help people keep their brain chemistry balanced and the brain working well. This is such an important thing as we age, to keep the brain really functioning, keep ourselves sharp.
What would be 1 or 2 small things that someone could do, since we're on this segment?
Yes, great. So a really simple thing is to be sure you're getting plenty of B vitamins in your diet, or to take a supplement. It's thought to be really protective for the brain, protective even more so as we age. And as we age, it's important to remember that we don't absorb nutrients quite as well. Sometimes we're not getting all the nutrients we need in our food, in our diet. And so if one is not really, really good about a wide variety of foods, seasonal foods, I think it pays off to take some kind of a really, really good multivitamin or a B complex vitamin. That's a simple thing. I think another thing that is simple to think about, not so easy to do, and that is to keep our bodies moving. Not to allow ourselves to become too sedentary. I think a lot of people, as we age, we tend to think that exercise is too hard, or there's too many barriers to it. And I just want to encourage people to think about that differently, because they do not have to go to a gym or get on a machine or lift a lot of weights. They just have to move their body. And there's so much more evidence that simply keeping yourself mobile, getting up many times over the course of the day, that helps with longevity, it helps with mood, it helps with energy.
Very good. So more of a lifestyle.
Weaving it into your lifestyle. Don't think about having to go exercise.
I like that. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. So any more on the body, mind, heart? Do you want to talk about the heart piece?
Sure. I'll say a word about the mind first, because I think that for so many of us in this stressful day and age, our our mind gets so busy, we get so distracted with so many things that it never has a chance to really fully settle down. And that's just not how we're built. Our minds have to have a chance to rest, to recover, to restore. And so finding some way that suits each person to allow their mind to calm. Meditation is a tried and true method. Prayer is another, or simply giving yourself moments of quiet or silence throughout the day and just not working at something in your mind, letting it settle. And then I think it's really helpful to create some skill at being able to work with your thoughts and with your emotions, your emotional life. I think a lot of people, as they age, they start to suffer more of a sense of loss. And that has a whole host of feelings that accompany it. And if they can turn toward those feelings with some degree of skill and some degree of equanimity, then they can work through those and experience those so much more successfully. So the feelings themselves don't take them down.
Sure.
And then when I think about the heart and heart practices, there are 2 or 3 fundamental things that become even more important as we age. And one is the practice of self-acceptance, accepting oneself and where one is in their lives as fully and deeply as possible. And the second is to sustain really meaningful connections with people, of course, but also a connection with your own deeper voice, your inner self, if you will, connection with God or with something greater than ourselves, and really a sense of connection with meaning. And especially as people, they move out of their careers and into other stages of their lives, having something that still gives them meaning and a sense of purpose is really, really critical.
Very good. I like those specific things. Thank you. So would you say joy is a choice?
I think that joy is a God-given part of our lives, that it is there all the time, whether we choose it or not. And so I think the choice is in whether that's what we're focusing upon. It has a lot to do, I think, with where we place our attention. If we're placing our attention on things that are wrong about our lives or things that, our health, things aren't working well, if that's what our primary focus is, it's going to be pretty hard to access joy. So we choose where we put our focus, our attention, our emphasis. I think joy is there whether we can tap into it or not at any given moment, but we can always tap into it.
So more of that conscientious effort, I'm hearing.
It requires an effort of attention,
yes,
I think.
Yes, very good. Well, I've heard you say that resilience is a prerequisite to joy. Can you talk a little bit more about how does one nurture a resilient life or resilience in their life? Yeah,
so resilience, I think, is another gift that we all have access to. And I think that some people simply have a greater capacity to withstand suffering or loss than others. But everybody, no matter how large or small their capacity, everybody has the ability to stay resilient. I think that that doing things that keep restoring ourselves, practices like paying attention to your diet and some kind of connecting with other people on a regular basis, doing some sort of inner work like prayer or meditation, those are practices that keep filling up our resilience tank. And I think that if your resilience tank gets depleted, then it's really, really hard to access joy. It just makes it much more difficult.
Sure.
They go hand in hand.
Yes, I could see that. Well, I love what you say. I was reading on your website, and you said resilience is our nature. It's literally woven into our DNA. Talk about that. You said we are naturally self-correcting, able to withstand stress, hardship, and loss while we keep going more or less successfully living our complex life. Wow, that's encouraging stuff.
Well, I believe it to be true, actually. I think that what we're learning about neuroscience, what we're learning about what's called neuroplasticity, how the brain we're able to change the brain pathways, what we're learning about how we're able to recreate new brain cells, no matter how old we are, we're still able to do that. And then even genetics, we tend to think of genetics as all or nothing. Either we have a gene for some illness or we don't, and it's just not that straightforward. In fact, there's a series of switches that get determined by all kinds of factors, including diet and exercise and sleep and practicing good positive emotions. Those have a lot to say about whether genes for illness get turned on or get turned off. So I just think there's a lot within our power that can change even such concrete things as physical or mental illness.
Very empowering.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it should be very empowering. I think there's so much that we're learning that we can do for ourselves that really change what's going on in our bodies and our minds.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, here at AgePotential, I really promote and encourage people to focus more on their biological and psychological age versus their chronological age, because as you know, that's fixed and pliable according to the calendar. But like you've already just, spoke of, we have a lot of influence on that biological down to our cellular level. Are you familiar with telomeres and one of the newest biomarkers for aging? Do you want to speak about that a little bit?
I'm familiar with the concept.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'm familiar enough to really speak about it very well. But as I understand it, our DNA is not as set as we have thought it to be. And so all kinds of influences will factor into whether that DNA shows up as illness or as health. And as we age, there are more things that can go wrong, but there's a lot of things that we can do to keep our body working right, to keep our DNA communicating properly to the cells. And I think those telomeres are one example of where things can go wrong or they can go right, depending on a lot of choices that we can make.
So focusing on those things that we have influence and control.
Things that we have influence on.
Sure.
What can we do that makes a difference in
Sure.
our overall health and our longevity?
Well, it's been wonderful having you on the show. Any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the viewers?
I'll share one thing that I just think this is fascinating. When you look at all of the different factors that play into creating a healthy brain and creating new brain cells and making them survive and grow well, it includes all the things that we think of as good self-care, but there's one thing that stands out greater than all the rest of those, and that is social connectedness. So if people can stay socially connected in really meaningful ways, it can protect us in so rich a way, and it even to the point of helping the brain recreate itself in a better way.
A beautiful practice and something really that brings a lot of joy and delight in our life when we do have those meaningful relationships. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all your information and for being here on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Remember, resilience is your essential nature, woven into your being. Joy and well-being is your birthright. Everyone can grow in their capacity for joy.